everybody.
Hello, welcome to the Music Lens podcast with me, Alex Allegra.
And Katie Fee. I'm trying to think. I feel like this happens every time we record the first episode of the two, since we do two, and then we have time away where it's like, when was the last time that we recorded?
Well, it's been Halloween.
Halloween happened. It rained a lot.
It did, I know. I took a nap and I didn't think that kids were going to start coming so early, and there was this one group, they woke me up because the doorbell started going off, and I was like, but I've had rehearsals, so musical starts this week, and then I will finally be more free.
More free. Yes. Yeah. I ended up, I thought about going places for Halloween, and then I just decided to drive home because I was off at 4 and I didn't know what to do in between things, and with the rain I was like, I don't want to drive anywhere, so yeah, I just stayed home and I watched Nightmare Before Christmas.
There were so many people out of rehearsals on Halloween that I was like, all I'm hearing is I could have stayed home and it would have been okay. So we just did a musical rehearsal, which was fine, we needed it, but I was kind of like, I just wanted to watch Halloween movies.
Yeah. Anything else with you other than musical stuff?
No, I mean, I've been really trying to, actually do my hair, so I've been sleeping in heatless curl options, and they just don't work on my hair. My hair is too thick. It doesn't dry, so when I wake up, it's still, half wet, and so the curl just, falls out of it, whatever it is. And just the way that, I have to curl my hair, all I can really use is a wand, because even just, regular ones don't hold the curl, and, just the way that it, sits on my head, then, they fall in weird places, and, it just doesn't look good, so, I could ask for tips and tricks on how to do it. I've watched a lot of TikTok videos, though, honestly, and I'm just, at this point, I'm just over it. I'm just, I just don't want to have to get up early to curl my hair, but I actually want nice hair.
I need to trim my bangs. I haven't done it since I got it cut. And I know last year was, in, December was the first time that I cut them, and then, or, professionally, and then I did cut them in between appointments last time. I just haven't done it, and I need to because they're growing pretty long, so. Yeah. Need to get them. They were cut to chin length, and I feel like I liked it a little lower. Once they grew out a little more, I was like, actually I like this length better, but now they're getting too long.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, but oh well, it's fine. Yeah, I don't think there's really much else, but yeah, I'm sad the spooky season's over, but it's still fall, people. It is still fall.
I know. My little Finch, we've talked about Finch on here before, but it's this little self-care bird app thing. And for October, it was spooky themed, and
Mad
you could
Scientist Lab,
and you could collect a bunch of Halloween and pumpkin decor for your little birdhouse. And now it's old granny, it's comfy, cozy vibes.
Knitting,
but there's still pumpkin stuff, so I've swapped everything that's Halloween specific with just the pumpkin fall look, so it's still very fall-y, cozy inside, so it's cute.
Yeah, there was a meme about people putting up Christmas stuff already on November 1st, and it was a text screenshot or whatever of someone saying that, and then the response was, Halloween was 9 minutes ago.
So here's the thing, I always leave my I still have my Halloween decorations up, just until this weekend. I'll probably take them down, I think after the first weekend,
orange and black,
after Halloween is still acceptable. I think about putting up, I never want to, okay, so I am all for Christmas doesn't start till after Thanksgiving. I 100% agree. But I feel not for everyone, but most people put so much work into Christmas decor that honestly, I want to put it up November 1st, A, so I don't have to do it later, but B, just so that it actually stays up for all the work I put into it. But
I wait till middle of November, so it's still up for a month and a half-ish, because usually, you have them up through New Year's. So I'll probably do it just like in 2 to 3 weeks probably. But I don't like going straight into it right after Halloween is over.
No, I mean, yeah, like that's what I was thinking, like when Halloween was ending. I was like, because I have to decorate our office at work too, and so like that's more the pain in the ass. And then by the time I'm finished with that, I like don't want to decorate my house. So I'm like,
yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. We haven't actually carved pumpkins. That's another story, but I'm trying to figure out if we want to do that today or not. So
I know I wanted to
never carved our pumpkins
so badly, just because I wanted to roast the pumpkin seeds out of them.
Yeah, I mean, you can still harvest the seeds without carving it, I guess. But
yeah, but I mean,
I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see
that's the whole
what
fun
the rest of
today
brings.
The pumpkin. I know I have rehearsals, so it doesn't really matter. But.
Yeah, they're just sitting on our steps. They look cute just as pumpkins, so I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if there's a point in carving at this point, but
I just want the seeds. Can you bring me the seeds?
I mean, maybe. We'll see what happens. I guess we have 2 full pumpkins, so that's a lot of seeds. But yeah. So we did a lot of fun episodes in October. I was gonna say in Halloween. It's fine. But we do want to get back into doing more like educational stuff. We'll still have fun episodes, but this week we're gonna do a little bit more educational stuff. And so
back to the regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah, because we do want to have episodes that can be like resources for fellow independent artists of how to do things with your career, I guess. Like just basic guides for things, I guess.
I don't know if she wants me to say this, is about to start looking into going into the studio and stuff again.
Yes.
And we definitely want to present what we do and like a case study of sorts through the podcast of like following someone's whole journey of what did you do, what worked, what didn't, what do you feel like you learned from releasing this time around. So
yeah, I did like a little single release guide type of thing, and this could be, I kind of just said single, but I guess it could be for a bigger project than just one song, but we're keeping it simple and just saying single for now. So I just wrote out a bunch of stuff kind of mainly from my brain with a little bit of outside research. But yeah, I'm gonna do what I did with, what was it? The conspiracy episode. I like typed stuff out to read so I know how to talk. So you've written a song that you love and you want to release it out into the world. In order for the song to have the best shot of being successful, you're going to need to plan out, you're going to need to plan out your release, including a timeline, production, visuals, marketing, and promotion.
I'm tired. I did not sleep well. Hold on, before we get it really into it, I didn't sleep last night.
Apparently, we had an extra hour.
I was talking in my sleep and I was having the weirdest dreams. I was yelling at this mannequin that kept stalking me, like it was possessed and it kept stalking me and I kept yelling at it, and apparently I was talking in my sleep.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that just kind of, I don't know, I wrote a little couple sentences to lay out what I have in here as far as like timelines and things like that. But first wanted to start with the like bare essentials of it. So I like to start with a release date and then work backwards, because that can help you like lay out a timeline for when you want / need things to be done, in order to have the release prepped and ready to go by the date you want it out. So you want to choose a release date that makes sense for the song, and typically it's going to be a Friday. That's like industry standard. I know people sometimes release on other days, but I just think Fridays is the best because that's when people are actually looking for new music. And if you do a different day of the week, it might just get like looked over. And also avoid the holiday season unless it's a Christmas song, because the industry likes to shut down at the end of the year. They don't really do charts or anything, and they probably aren't looking, like media's probably not looking for stuff to review and all that, so it's gonna be hard for you to get any media and press and stuff if you're doing it during the holiday season, because people are just checking out for the year and getting a well-deserved break.
Well, they're looking at new music. It's just new holiday music.
It's holiday music. Yeah, it's hard to do any type of non-holiday music during the holiday season, I think. It's also good to think about the song's context. It's not always necessary to, like, for example, release a summer song in, like, summer or, like, late spring, like, getting into summer. But if you're gonna have it be in the middle of winter, you're probably gonna want to figure out a good way to market that and make that make sense. So it's good to think of a release date that kind of ties into what the song's about as well. So once the release date is chosen, as I said, you can make deadlines for each step of the release to lay out your plan. CD Baby has like a music release plan generator, and it just basically lays out the release plan deadlines for you based on that release date. So it's nice to have a little guide of when things need to be turned in and stuff. And obviously it's promoting its own services, but that doesn't mean you have to use CD Baby as your distributor and all that stuff, because they have other stuff. I'm saying so many times because they have other stuff other than distribution, and so obviously there's going to be kind of ads within it of saying you should use this, but you can use whichever service you want, but it still lays out those dates and kind of gives you a good guideline to do that. So I figured we can use an example of releasing a song on February 14th for Valentine's Day. Totally random date. And so using that date, I put it into the release plan generator to kind of, again, give us a guide as we talk through it. And so most distribution companies, they want you to submit your music for distribution like 4 to 6 weeks prior to the release day. That just makes sure that it gets sent to the streaming platforms and everything is like all on time, so that way it actually is released to the public on the date that you want it to. Sometimes that takes time.
I was gonna say, you can, if you really wanted to, put all your stuff into your distributor day before, but you're running the risk of it not actually uploading at the time that you designate, or that there's going to be some complication, like it didn't go to the right artist, or that you, especially if it's your first single, because a lot of them you have to like claim your artist name and tie it into your distributor,
right?
Like Spotify and Apple Music are the big ones that most platforms have tied to them, and you create your own artist designated account through your distributor to then, that's how you see things like the bios and all, but that's you like your artist pages on those things. But in order to have an artist page on them, you need a distributor to upload said music.
Yeah. And even if you do that, sometimes it does act up, but this just gives you the opportunity to hopefully prevent that, because I know with my Sunsets and Fireworks EP, it was supposed to come out on obviously the Friday or whatever, and it just didn't show up on Spotify for whatever reason, and I had to contact DistroKid and be like, hey, why is it not up? What's happening? They said they had to resubmit it, and then it got up 2 days later. So I guess if you think of it that way, it did only take 2 days because they had to resubmit it. So it is possible for it to go up, but also things might be weird, and so it just gives you more time to make sure it all gets put in order the way it's supposed to. And so speaking of distribution companies, there's a lot of them out there, so just like do your research, and we can do like a whole episode on this of which one is the best fit for your needs and like pros and cons for it. But doing your research and finding what fits best for you. DistroKid, TuneCore, CD Baby are like 3 of the main ones, but I know there's more out there than just those ones. That's just like the 3 that come to mind when I think of them. And yeah, so with our example, you would need to submit your music by January 17th. So I think that's the 6-week mark. No, that doesn't seem right. Is that a 4-week mark? I don't know. 4 weeks. And so, with that in mind, you're going to want to make sure that your music is produced, mixed, mastered by that date, as well as having your cover artwork finalized. And so, knowing all that needs to be done by January 17th, then again, working backwards, then you'll have to figure out timing wise with whatever producer and studio you're working with, and make sure you're communicating with them when you need stuff done by, and scheduling for the studio and all that. So we could do a whole nother episode about production and like finding a producer at some point, but you're just going to want to take into account the timing for them. And also sometimes the producer isn't the one doing the mixing and mastering, so if you're going to have that sent off to someone else, that also adds time. So really just kind of working backwards and figuring out how much time all this is going to take to make sure you have it done well in advance. And also, I think just personally, the earlier the better, in the sense of people nowadays are posting TikToks and reels and stuff, kind of just teasing music even before they necessarily announce that it's coming out. And that gives more time for that, which I'm going to go into later a little bit more of like promotion stuff, but just keeping with the bare essentials for now. So cover art, you want to think of like an image that represents the song well, and if you're going to have yourself on it, then you'll need to have a photography session booked to do that. But I would say still do one even if you're not going to be on the cover art, because then you have like all your pictures and stuff for social media, because you're still going to need stuff to post in addition to the cover art.
And cover art, I think I definitely always have a vision going into what I want everything to look like and sound like, and be very cohesive, but definitely get some second opinions on it, because what translates well for you might not always translate well for the rest of things. And while it doesn't need to be as this $1 million photo shoot or like anything else like that, it can be a lot of DIY. I've seen a lot of really cool DIY album shoots lately, and people being really creative with it. But definitely do research on what other photographers, and Pinterest is a great idea to like make a whole mood board for like the whole entire process of your project, so that things line color wise, you can see,
figure out all those
get a lot of inspiration for what you want the pictures to look like. Plus then you can send that mood board to even your producer, to your photographers, to everything, saying this is what it's all going to look like, and then you can see if it looks cohesive or not. And then they're going to have some input if it looks cohesive or not as well, so that you're keeping with a very overall color scheme, and then you're not explaining it to the photographer, and then you guys end up in, like, if you wanted something spooky and moody, and you're not in the middle of a cornfield in the sunshine at 12 o'clock, and you're like, that's not going to be your mood. So, like, I mean, that was very extreme. I'm sure you didn't say that to your, you executed that a little better, but then it just keeps everybody on the same page. And that was something I didn't think of until I worked at an interning company. I interned at a marketing company, and we used Pinterest boards. And it was really like, oh, and then some of the photographers I started working with were like, well, do you have a Pinterest board? Like, those are really helpful.
I think I did one for our photo shoot for Runaway Heart, where I was like, here's all these like things with the leaves and stuff. So
no, it definitely helps. And I will say, like I said, it doesn't need to be this extravagant thing, but you can kind of tell when a picture is album art or not. I know there was that trend going around, like anything can be album art on TikTok and stuff like that, and it is kind of true, but
it has to make sense with the song.
I don't know. I've just seen some people, and I'm not going to bring up examples because I don't want to call anyone out, but like there's definitely, like, I can go on Spotify and see something and be like, that looks like cover art, and maybe it's even like the graphic design around it, putting the names and the especially if it's like your first couple songs, I definitely recommend putting like the name and the song title on it, because it's going to identify everything as a brand. When you get to be a little bit more recognizable, not having your album or name your
Right.
person name on it, you can get away with it. But definitely when you're first starting out, people are going to see the picture and just be like, okay, it's a picture, but I have no clue who this is. Like, that's not going to attach to anything, especially if you're just like seeing it as an ad and you're just seeing this picture and you're like, okay, it's another picture, but you didn't know that, oh, that was a song that you were promoting, because nowhere on the graphic is there a song title or anything like that. So that's gonna make a big difference. But I was saying, people get a lot of crap for using Canva to graphic design their stuff. It's like,
it's very useful though.
But you just have to know how to actually use it. And there's definitely some independent... It looks very DIY. And so, like, there is a difference between, like, looking DIY and, like, seeing it and being like, okay, this looks professional. And I don't know how else to describe it other than, like, just having a good eye for it. But there's just been some people that I see and I'm just like... I don't know if that was the direction that I would have gone in, but okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Canva's good for like putting it all together and stuff.
Yeah, and we talked about that
very
last
user-friendly tool and stuff.
Or maybe not last week, but recently. Our last artist inventory
at some point
thing,
we
I
did
think
talk
used
about
it.
it. Yeah. But yeah, you don't have to be on it as long as it's some sort of image that represents the song well. And I put the example of Alex put out Boyfriend Bucket List, and it was like a little doodle thing where there's like doodles of each different type of boyfriend on the bucket list.
Yeah, so I had like an emoji or like a symbol of like what each thing in the song was. And then that was fun for promotional purposes because each day before the single I added a new picture onto it, and then it was on like a piece of notebook paper because it was your bucket list, but for guys that you were writing out, so it made sense.
Yeah, and then like for Go to Church, I like hand wrote out all the Eric Church reference songs titles on a vinyl record, and then in the center I put Go to Church Katie Fee. Because again, you still want your name and the title of the song on it somewhere as well.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
Yeah, it took a lot of time. I got yelled at for painting on a Linda Ronstadt record. It's fine. On TikTok, but oh well, it's fine. But yeah, I already said that part, but just Barry Essentials like summary is to pick the release date, have the song produced, mixed, mastered, create cover art, and submit it to the distributor. So that's like the bare minimum that you need to do to release a single. But obviously there's like a lot of other things that go into it to make it successful and properly promote it and all that. But before
including having the proper metadata on it and making sure that there are a variety of different formats, and you want to make sure your producer or whoever masters the song gets you an MP3 file, a WAV file. I normally have like an instrumental version and then a 16-bit one, and then making sure that your distributor gets the right version of it. So you want to make sure that you have ones that adapt to a variety of different formats.
Yeah, the standards that I typically get are the master and instrumental version, and then just vocals alone, which I thought was interesting that was a thing, but I haven't used it, but I guess it's nice to have. And then I ask for stems because if you want to do live performances but not have like every single instrument on stage but still want those sounds, then you can have usually a drummer will be the one running the tracks and have like the banjo still on there even if you're not having a banjo player on stage and things like that. So it's good to have the stems for live performance further on down the line. Or when I did my tour, it was just like acoustic, but I cannot play the guitar on Ghost as well as it is on the track, so I literally have the guitar part where I just use the Bluetooth on my sound system to play the track and I just sing to it. So it's helpful to have the stems for that purpose. But yeah, so before moving on to other areas of the release, I just wanted to briefly like go over budgeting. So you want to find out what your budget is for the release and plan accordingly to that budget as well. So start off with budgeting.
I was gonna say marketing, like for promotion and everything is normally half your recording costs. Okay. That's about standard for what it is.
Yes.
So if you pay
in a perfect world where you have the money for it,
if you pay $1,500 for a song, $750 additional would go to marketing that song.
But when you're budgeting, you want to start off with budgeting the essentials, so the production, distribution, and then you want to go into the other things. So I just kind of did a bullet point of take into account cost of production, distribution, photography, any graphic design needs, publicity, advertising, if you do a music video, and merch, if you do merch. But aside from production and distribution, or if you self-produce, then you can take that off the list as well. Then you can release music relatively free, but like I said, like usually, or like you said, the budgeting of marketing and stuff, ideally you do have a budget available for that, because I think we live in a world where money talks and it helps you push out the music to more people. But if you don't have the means for that, you still can release music, and you can also find friends that are like helpful, for willing to do stuff for you for free or for less money, and doing a lot of it yourself can help lower the cost too. But
well, and I was gonna say something that I thought was kind of going away was the guerrilla style marketing, which is like very hands-on, very much right in front of people, constantly, kind of not aggressively, but that kind of aggressive, like getting in front of people's faces. Who was it at? I'm gonna forget her name.
Emily at CMA Fest.
No. But yes, that was an example of it. But Emily Ann Roberts.
She was just like
Roberts was going out handing out koozies, and that had the single printed on them, and filming TikToks right out there during CMA Fest. But during the Music on the Move show that we went to recently.
Gina Veneer?
Yeah, she was guerrilla style marketing and ended up on the highway because they were like, you have to hear my song, you have to hear it. So obviously don't harass people,
right?
But be confident in yourself. I mean, the biggest promoter is going to be yourself, and as frustrating as that is, I've just really taken that in stride and been like, I believe in my music, and that's honestly at the end of the day what you need to do, because you need to be able to stand on that music in 10-20 years,
right?
Like, that's the songs you should be putting out as an artist, is things that
ones that you're not going to get tired of.
You never know what you are going to get tired of, but if you think that like in 10 years it still has a relatable message to who you want to be in the story you want to share, like, then yes, put it out.
Yeah, because if it is the thing that blows up, you will be singing it forever. So you want songs that you are not going to get tired of singing over and over again. But yeah, she I think she passed by the table at the end of the night or something, and said she did good or liked her music, some words like that. And I remember her saying yeah, follow me and stuff like that. And so even just saying that, I think, is kind of marketing too, of not just saying, oh, thank you, and then moving on. It's yeah, follow me, be my fan.
Yeah, I always try to make a connection, even if it's just asking whoever came up to you at the end of the night their name, that is making a connection, because you're taking that interest and you're taking that extra bit of care, yes, I see you, I acknowledge that you enjoyed what you heard tonight, and I want to make that connection as a fan, and thank you. So
yeah,
it just is that little extra milestone that can go a ways. So
yeah. Last thing of budgeting was just knowing kind of a rough estimate or budget ahead of time. You can kind of get an idea of okay, do I need to figure out how to raise money for this project? Do I need to take some extra shifts to pay for it, or do I want to do a crowdfunding campaign? And just figuring it out based off of how much you think you're gonna need for it. But next I have pre-saves. So going back to our example, the release guideline thing said February 1st would be when you would want your pre-save link by. So that gives you about 2 weeks to have people pre-saving your song. And just for, what do you call it? Like layman's terms, or like just to put it out there of a definition, if anyone doesn't understand pre-saves help with Spotify algorithms, because it's telling Spotify that people are excited to hear new music, and it also like adds the song to their libraries on release day, so that way it increases the odds of them actually listening to it once it comes out, and helps with streams that way. Apple Music has pre-ads, I think, but I don't really know much about them because I don't really do Apple Music stuff. But I know you can also pre-order digital downloads on iTunes, and people tend to focus more on pre-saves, but if you do want to like do some sort of pre-order campaign to try and do iTunes charts, that's a thing as well. I know Tiger Lily did that with Somebody Does, however many years ago that came out. They were focusing more on that, and I think they did #1 for country or something with that.
Yeah, they got really high up on the chart for sure.
Yeah, so that's still a thing, but most people kind of go more towards the Spotify pre-saves because I think that's just like the one that people are more used to. And
a lot of people, I think, when you say like, oh, pre-save, I've had some people like kind of shut me down, like, oh, I only use Apple Music, but those links have links like underneath it.
Typically,
for like
has all of them
through DistroKid. Like it'll give you one link, but if you click on the link, it'll say Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, whoever gets some like first and like has those links. Again, sometimes, and why you want to upload things as soon as you can, is to give time for that stuff to generate.
Right.
And you can pick days sometimes. Again, if you have it well enough in advance, you can pick out those days. You also sometimes need to pay specifically to have things generated in certain ways. I know sometimes it's like add-ons for tiers for your distribution platform.
Yeah. So 2 weeks is the suggested timeline, but you could do it even longer. I know some people will have a pre-save link even before they announce when the song's coming out, and some people will do like, oh, once I hit X number of pre-saves, I'll announce the song and things like that. And I can't remember her name, but I know there was someone who was on Nashville Tour Stops podcast talking about how she like saved up pre-saves before releasing, like had so many of them of like a year in advance kind of pre-saves on TikTok, but then she had like silence at the end of her track when it came out or something, so she had to re-upload it and lost like all of that. So make sure your tracks are good, like make sure there's not anything weird on it at the end or just anywhere in it that's not supposed to be there, I guess. But I like that idea of just kind of having people pre-save well in advance too as a way to do that. And you could also do like a giveaway to encourage people to pre-save and have it tied around the song. I know I did for Haven't Even Poured the Whiskey. I did a little pre-save giveaway that was 2 rocks glasses, 2 koozies, and 2 stickers that were like the little Jack Daniel's logo of Haven't Even Poured the Whiskey. And that's a way to do it too, is just like, hey, if you pre-save, like send a screenshot of showing that you pre-saved, you'll be entered to win something. That might be an incentive to get people to do it as well. And yeah, so next I have the playlisting. So they say to pitch to Spotify by February 3rd, so that's about 2 weeks in advance. But they want you to do at least 7 business days before release to give time for Spotify to see the pitch and consider it for playlists. And this is their like official playlisting. So there's New Music Friday. Now the country one is called All New Country, things like that, or not even just new music playlists. It could be any type of official Spotify playlist. And these are kind of like the big deal playlists because it's going to get so many more streams for your song just by being on there, because people listen to official playlists more, I think, than user-generated ones. and gets you in front of a whole lot of new people. And then the plan also suggested doing a Spotify playlist of your own that you can like create a couple days in advance and then add your song to once it's out. And that also can help if like people want to listen to your playlist that's maybe themed around the song, or like this is people who inspired the song, things like that, of just like another playlist that it could be on. And then
I know that was a big thing when I was interning at some record labels, that the artists that were releasing new things, that was one thing we helped create a lot of, was those themed what's gonna mesh well, because if you already like a bunch of the songs on that playlist and then it slips in, it's gonna be like, oh, I already like what's on here, why not like the new stuff? So
right, yeah. And then also there's a bunch of like free websites that you can use to pitch your music to playlists, and you can research playlists and see like in their description sometimes they'll have their contact information for where to submit. I know for my New Music Friday one, I have like send submissions to I have my email, and then I have my Instagram handle on there so they can email or DM me their music if they want to be considered for it. So sometimes it's just like researching things like that, but also there's like Submit Hub, Daily Playlists, and SoundPlate are some of the free websites where I've gotten some playlists from that, but I feel like they're kind of hit or miss. It kind of just depends, but it's gets you a little bit of streams, I guess. It depends how much effort you're putting into it.
There are also plenty of paid websites for those kinds of things, but again, I've seen a lot of people like, is this really worth it? Is it not? Also, you want to be careful because sometimes you don't want the bot playlist type things, so you got to be careful making sure that you're not just getting put on playlists that aren't actually reaching target audiences or actual humans.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I had next was like, no, you're fine. There are playlisting services where you can pay people to be pitching the songs to playlists, but you do want to make sure they're not bot playlists, because Spotify can pick up on that and then just like take you off of their platform. So obviously that would not be a good thing. So make sure that you're not getting bot playlists and they're real ones. Playlist Push and Sound Campaign are two of the websites that I know of for playlisting. I used Sound Campaign for Sunsets and Fireworks. It was under $100. I don't remember how many playlists it pitched to. It wasn't a whole lot, but that's where the majority of my streams are from, or like the two playlists I got on from that. So it does add up to streams depending on the playlist that you're getting on. PR campaigns are also good for promoting music. The plan was saying like in advance, like some publications want you to do stuff like way in advance, but I know with Anchor Publicity, Colleen just puts out the press release on release day, so it kind of just depends on the company you're working for and how they operate. But if you're doing it in the way that Colleen does it, you just basically need enough time to meet up with the person that you're working with and go over details and stuff ahead of time of the release. So that's not like super in advance, but I know we've talked about having her on potentially whenever we get around to having guests, so we can have her as like a part 2 to our publicity episode that we did a while back, and have her answer some questions about publicity and all that. I think we do have a lot with social media stuff and promotion and things that are important for releasing, so to make sure we have enough time to cover that without rushing through it and having time for discussion and all that, I think we might want to just do like a part 2 to this episode. So I think we're gonna have that be our stopping point for this one. So
that was the real meat and potatoes of it, and then this is like all the extra promotion, fun, where you really get to let the creativity show, but also be smart about it.
And social media obviously is very important with today's industry in order to properly promote a song, but this part I feel like covers a lot of the basic necessities that you need for releasing music. So Yeah, we'll do part 2 for next week. But if there's anything you have input on for the stuff we've discussed, you can send it to themusiclenspodcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on socials at The Music Lens Podcast. And you can follow Alex on socials at Alex Allegra Music and myself at Katie Fee Music. And yeah, see you next week for part 2 of this.
Bye.
Bye.